Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soft Flow. My name is John Cottrell. This is a 60-minute gentle yoga practice. Thanks for being here. So for our practice, like with every Soft Flow class, we like to use a lot of props. And one of the reasons why we use props for this class is I encourage you to do something a little different from maybe like a power class if you're used to taking maybe a faster moving vinyasa yoga class, is that we move a little slower, we take our time, not push. We're certainly not forcing ourselves into our poses. Really, so we have this idea and feeling of taking our time, taking a slow pace, and really taking care of ourselves. And part of taking care of ourselves is using props. So let me just show you some of the props that we typically use for this class, and that's usually a blanket. So something soft, either to sit on, certainly to kneel on, and we'll be using the blanket in several ways. I'll show you how we'll be using the blanket in our class today. You may want to have a couple of blocks, yoga blocks, or something stackable. It could be a couple of books, hardback books perhaps, something that might bring the floor a little closer to you. It's also a nice platform to sit on. I like to sit on a block at the end of class. And then a big pillow. And I'm going to encourage you to find something, a big cushion, a big sofa cushion. This is a yoga bolster. It could be a pillow from your bed, even a couple of pillows from your bed. We're going to be doing back bends today. And of course, they too will be gentle and supported. And so that's why we want to use blankets and bolsters and things like that to support our back bend practice. So those are our props for our soft flow practice. We like to begin in seated, so I invite you to take a comfortable seat. I like to cross my legs. This is comfortable for me, but if it feels better for you to extend your legs, please do that. If you want to sit up against a wall or even in a chair for this first part of our class, please feel free to do that. So as you find your comfortable seat, you might be sitting on a soft blanket or pillow. Feel the lengthening in your spine. Take a few deep breaths. You might breathe in through your nose. You can exhale through your mouth if you'd like with a soft sigh. Do that a few times just to help settle into your own body, arrive in the space, and arrive in this moment. Being fully present. This attention to our breath helps us to bring ourselves to this present moment. So as we continue in our breathing meditation, you're welcome to close your eyes or just soften your eyes. You might gaze downward or forward. And you'll begin to bring a little bit more energy to your breath. Nothing extreme, just more awareness so that you can feel the breath moving through your body. So with your next inhale, just breathe in slowly and deeply. Feel as if you're filling up your lungs, this nice expansiveness here. Then a slow and controlled exhale. And as we release the breath, we do what's called the abdominal lock. And it's just a light engagement of your abdominal muscles. So you can feel that little squeeze or a contraction, or feel like your belly button is pulling in towards your spine. Keep that mild. It's just an awareness. So again, a nice breath in, feel the breath rising, feeling the extension of your spine, filling up your lungs. Slow and controlled exhale, light contraction of abdominal muscles, and do that a few more times. In a moment, we'll add a very simple movement to this breathing exercise. Go ahead and take 3 more slow breaths. Then we'll add our simple movement. It's just your arms, We're going to inhale and extend your arms out and up into the air. Just reach up nice and high. Treat it like a nice stretch. Then exhale, extend your arms out, and then back down by your side. Just a slow movement, allowing the breath to move your body. Again, an inhale, really extend your arms out, a reaching, stretching quality, all the way out and then up towards the ceiling. Then your exhale. Now you're still drawing your navel inward towards your spine. It provides nice support so you can stay seated tall as your arms come back down. Go ahead and continue at your own breath pace and movement of your body. Just the simple motion of reaching up and bringing the arms back down. And since you're probably moving in slow motion, pay attention to the sensations in your body. You might notice some energy in your arms, especially since if you're reaching and stretching, you'll feel that. Feel how your shoulders are in motion as you allow your arms to reach up and back down. And perhaps as you reach into the air, maybe a lengthening through the sides of your body. We want to pay attention to the sides of our body today as well. Go ahead and take 3 more slow breaths. Going at your own pace. Your arms are just following the movement of your breath. When you're complete, just bring your arms down by your side. You can even just let your hands just rest in your lap for a moment. You might even feel that change in your arms since they went from an energetic movement now to a resting state. So really experience that transition. We're going to do one more arm movement, which will create a side stretch. So here's what we'll do. Just take your right hand and just place it on the ground next to you, or a block, or even just your fingertips, just off to the side. We're going to take the left arm and extend it out to the side. Inhale and reach up until the arm or hand is reaching at 12 o'clock. Inhale again, reach high. Then exhale, start to kind of lean over towards your right. And this right elbow might just bend a little bit just to provide some support since your palm is on the ground. You don't have to make this a very big stretch in reach feeling, just enough where there's this lengthening quality down through the side of your left body. We'll hold here for just a few more breaths. Again, we're going to be working with back bends. And in back bends, they're considered heart openers. And since that's some movement of the torso, we want to make sure we have some lengthening and stretch through the sides of our body as well. Let's go ahead and inhale, reach back up, sit up nice and tall, and then exhale, bring the arm back down by your side. Again, just let your hands just rest in your lap. Again, coming back to that relaxed state. And we'll do the same on the other side. So you can lean over to your left side, onto a block, a pillow, fingertips, or palm. Inhale, extend your right arm out and up. Exhale there. Inhale, reach straight up just to get some lift through the sides of the body. Exhale, start to reach over your head, allowing this left elbow to bend as a way to support the body in motion. And again, this doesn't have to be very far, just enough where you feel something. We'll hold for a couple more breaths. This nice extension quality. And we'll be doing something very similar in some of our other poses that will stretch the sides of the body. This is just kind of an introduction. All right, let's go ahead and inhale and come back up nice and tall. Then your exhale to bring this arm back down. Go ahead and let your arms and hands relax, coming back to that relaxed state. We're going to move into our first back bend. It's just a seated, gentle back bend that we typically do at the beginning of our practice. I'm just going to turn sideways just so you can see this. You're going to take your hands behind you, again, on fingertips or palms, either one. I'm going to take my fingertips here, and that's because I'm sitting up on a blanket. And then if your shoulders seem to be hunched forward, see if you can roll them back and maybe even squeeze your shoulder blades together to kind of hold your upper body in place. Your chest should feel proud and opened. We're going to lift the chin just a little bit so we have a little bit more space. This is the setup for our seated back bend. We're going to inhale, push into the ground with your hands or fingertips. As you're pressing, also feel the breath rise to fill up your lungs. Exhale, just pull belly in and squeeze shoulder blades together behind you. Inhale, press into the mat. Just feel the energy in your hands, your arms, your shoulders. Feel the breath rise, fill up your lungs. Exhale, draw belly in, squeeze shoulder blades. Now we've added more energy, more effort in the body. Feel this, lots more sensation. Pay attention to these sensations. As you breathe in and feel that expansiveness in the chest, it might even feel like a stretch across the upper chest from shoulder to shoulder. Good. Let's take 2 more breaths here. When you're complete, just lower your chin to look forward. Let's bring the hands forward again. Let them rest on your lap and just feel everything relax. Just to create balance, since we're doing a back bend, we want to do a forward fold. So if your legs are crossed, let's uncross them and reposition them so that the soles of the feet are together here. We're actually in cobbler's pose or bound angle. And we're going to take a forward fold, which will get a nice stretch in the inner thighs and a little lengthening in the back. But first, you might want to use some blocks or a couple of books or even some small pillows just to tuck underneath your knees or legs so there's a resting spot for the legs. Hold on to your ankles or shins so that you can inhale and sit up nice and tall. Exhale, pull belly in for support and start to hinge forward at your hips, leaning forward just a little bit, leading with your heart and your chin, like you're going out in front of you, but just a little bit. And this is that dynamic of moving slowly, gently, not taking our, or actually we are taking our time, not forcing ourselves. We're inhaling again for more length in the spine. Exhale, pull belly in. And if you're able, or if you just want to, just hinge forward a little bit more. Doesn't have to be much at all. And you can pause at any point. Even continue to listen to your body. Since we are moving in slow motion, it's more opportunities for you to pay attention to what's going on inside of you. So if you feel like you've gone too far, always feel free to move back or out of the pose or just modify the pose completely. My back is still straight, but you're certainly welcome to lower your chin and even round your back a little bit and just notice the changes that might occur in your body because of this now curvature in the spine. Let's take a few more breaths. And again, since we're doing some back bends, we want to also experience some lengthening, that stretch quality through the back in a typical forward fold like this. Let's take 2 more breaths. Now, if your back did round and your head lowered, start by lifting your head a little bit, just to help re-extend the neck. Place your hands on your mat and just press into the ground to help rise back up until you feel that re-extension of your spine. Again, we'll hold here for a breath. Nice. Let's make a transition. So let's move our props out of the way. So if you're using those blocks, we'll set them to the side. We're going to come to our hands and knees. Now, if you weren't sitting on a blanket, you may want to bring your blanket in or something soft underneath you. That could even just be another rolled out mat if you happen to have another yoga mat. Or fold your mat. If you don't have an additional mat or cushioning, you might just fold your mat in, and just have some extra cushioning, something like that, okay? So maybe a little rectangle space for your hands and knees like so, and prepare for cat and cow. This is a great movement for our back bend practice. So we'll inhale, look forward or up, and we create a mild back bend. Don't force it. The belly drops a little bit, the pelvis tips downward, chest opens, and we're going to exhale and reverse that. Feel the belly button pull up towards the spine, allow that curvature of the spine, tug pelvis underneath, chin to chest. Reverse it. Inhale, look up or forward, belly drops, pelvis tips back, that back bend feel. Don't force it. Exhale, round it out. And just continue with that gentle flow. Cat pose, cow pose. Cow pose is actually the inhale when we create the back bend like this. And then the exhale is the cat pose. It's a nice core engagement, but you might even feel that nice stretch quality through the upper back, the thoracic spine area. Maybe you'll feel this rocking of the pelvis. Also wonderful for creating a little bit more mobility and flexibility in your hips and pelvis, but also releases the low back. Finish the breath that you're on and take 2 more. Come back to a neutral tabletop posture. Hold for a breath. And if you are using a blanket or you folded your mat, let's go ahead and move those out of the way. Come back to hands and knees on your mat and get set up for downward facing dog. Step your hands forward and spread out your fingers pretty wide when you step them forward. We're just getting the wrists mostly out from underneath the shoulders. We're at this angle like this. Spread out your fingers, creates a nice base, and then push into the mat, flattening your hands. That's a great way to stretch your palms. Push gently, feel the energy, firmness, and strength in your arms. Hold that and then tuck your toes. We'll do another cat and cow flow. We're going to inhale for cow, looking up or forward. Slight arch in the back. Exhale into cat pose. Hold cat. Feel the belly button pull up towards spine. Then from here, lifting knees off the mat and hips up into the air. This is downward facing dog. Make a quick adjustment with your feet and hands if need be. Feel the nice extension of spine. And then we're going to move right away. Look at the space between your hands. You're going to take a walk up to your hands, or actually just to a place where your feet are grounded. The whole foot, both feet, grounded on the mat. This will put you in a deep forward fold. Hold that for a second. Then inhale, slide your hands up the legs to your knees or thighs to extend your spine. Hold here. This is half forward fold. It's like a table. Keep a softness or a slight bend in your knees. Hands can just rest on your knees or thighs. Keep extending through the spine. Feel as if you're moving in opposite directions. Your hips and tailbone feel like they're moving to the wall behind you, while the very top of your head is leading you forward. From here, just start shifting your weight back into your heels. Bend your knees. Feel like you're going to sit down into a low chair. Look forward. This should allow you to extend your arms out to the side. Use it as a way to help lift and stand up all the way, reaching into the air. Then your exhale, just bring your arms down by your side. Right there, mountain pose. Take a moment here, arriving in our standing position, a breath or two. And we're just going to do another forward fold and come right back up, taking our time. This is our half salute to the sun. Here we go. Inhale, reach into the air, big stretch, side body stretch. Exhale, spread your wings, bend your knees, sit back into an imaginary chair, move in slow motion, come down, feel that curvature of the spine. Hands might land at your shins or ankles. Inhale, slide your hands back up to the knees or thighs, extending the spine. Once again, we're going to hold here. Exhale to hold here. Feel the belly button still pull up, in this case, towards your spine to engage your core system. Shift your weight back into your heels a little bit. Bend your knees, let your hips drop, look forward, extend your arms out. Stand up tall, straighten your legs, reach up into the air, touch the ceiling. Exhale, arms come back down by your side. Another pause right here. Very nice. Feel free to maybe roll your shoulders a little bit. Even a little movement in the head and neck. Maybe just side to side, ear to shoulder, and then just nod yes. Just look down, look forward. Look down, look forward, like that. Okay, just a little loosening in those joints. All right, let's continue our flow. We're going to be moving through our sun salutation, and we'll be breaking it down. I'm going to show you a different way, though. We're going to do something slightly different with this movement, okay? So pay attention. So here we're just going to inhale, reach into the sky. Exhale, just bring your arms back down by your side. That's all. We'll do that one more time. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, bring arms back down. Now start shifting your weight into your right foot. Make sure your knees are slightly soft. So weights in your right foot, press. Because we're going to lift the left foot. I'm actually just sliding it back, and I start to lift. But just feel that natural stop of the leg, like you really can't lift any higher without tipping forward. Once you've got that lift, then just set it down behind you. Look, now the feet may not be that far apart, but that's intentional. We're just doing a different version of Warrior One. So your right foot, your toes are still pointing forward. Just be sure your right knee is stacked over your ankle and not over your toes. So you're not leaning forward like this, but really balanced. That back foot is probably turned at an angle, a natural angle there. Facing forward with your hips square, meaning they're facing directly forward there as well. Then take your arms up into the air. Very different sensation in a Warrior One position. Hold for a couple breaths. So when we do a regular Warrior One, and it may not feel great for you, whether it's for your hips or your back, try this version instead. All right, we're going to keep the arms extended. Start to shift forward a little bit into this right foot so we can step together, both feet underneath you, reach high, and then your arms back down by your side. Okay, so a very different version of Warrior One. We're going to do the same thing for the other side. Start shifting weight into your left foot. Keep a little softness in the knees. All right, then you start to slide this right foot back. It might lift away from the ground a little bit, but not too far. Just feel that natural stopping point. And then just set the foot down. The foot will probably naturally turn out to the side. This is our Warrior One today. We'll do a regular Warrior One. I'm just giving you an alternative to Warrior One. Left knee right over the ankle, not forward. Right here, we want our center of gravity to be here in the hips. Let's go ahead and extend the arms up into the air. Exhale, hold. Holding here. It's a great posture. It's a great modification of this pose because it keeps you balanced. It still has an effect of opening up through the hips, but not forcing them. Couple more breaths here. All right, keep your arms up into the air. Let's shift forward, put weight back into the front foot so we can step together, both feet, reach up into the air, and exhale, arms down by your side. Alrighty, now we'll go through our regular version. Inhale, reach into the sky. Exhale, spread your wings, bend your knees, sit back into the imaginary chair, and slowly fold. Making your way down towards toes. You don't have to touch your toes. Inhale, rise up halfway, long, flat back like a table. Now on this exhale, we're folding again. Slow, take your time. Your back will naturally curve. Bend your knees more because we need to place our palms on the ground if you can reach, or fingertips. So you can start stepping, walking both feet back like this to the end of your mat until we are in plank pose, a high push-up position. Hold here. We're going to inhale to get more length in the body. Exhale, bend your knees a little. Send your hips into the air. And that's downward facing dog. We were here before. Make any adjustments with your feet and hands. Hold for a moment. Okay, another way to get into Warrior One. Pay attention. Usually working with the right leg, we would take the right leg into the air. We're not going to do that at this moment. But shift your weight a little bit into your right foot. Your right foot. Your left foot's going to step forward a little bit. I don't know if you can see this, but I've just brought my foot forward a little bit and it's turned out to the side. Then putting a little weight into my front hands. I can even rise up to fingertips if I need to. Stepping right foot forward, right there.
Be aware if you're really leaning forward, we need to put some weight back behind you a little bit, more in like into your hips, and then start to stand. So we're back to that original version of Warrior One. Bring your arms down to your hips and aware that your hips are square. Now, what you could do is stay just like this for that variation, or lean forward and then just step back like that, just to widen the stance a little bit. Take the arms back up into the air, hold for a moment, and then we'll open to a Warrior Two. And again, it's okay if the feet aren't very wide. We're just going for a very different sensation today with our warriors, our Warrior One and Warrior Two, not needing necessarily to take the feet very wide. Let's take a side angle pose. And because the legs aren't that far apart, we're just going to reach out a little bit. Let's bend this front arm, right arm, tip, even place hand on thigh right here while this left hand reaches into the sky. Let's go for that side body stretch again, reaching overhead like we did in that seated position right there. Side stretches actually help lengthen and stretch the body so we can get prepared for our heart openers. Okay, take a breath in right here. We're going to exhale, carefully turn towards the ground, fold slowly. The back will round, place your fingertips or palms on the ground, rise up onto your tiptoes behind you, and slide or step this right foot back until you've returned to downward facing dog. Hold for length and strength, then bend knees, send hips into the air, down dog. We're going to do the exact same thing, putting a little weight into the left foot. Step the right foot forward a little bit, just a natural one step forward, right toes turn out to the side. Lean forward into your hands or fingertips if you need to lift up a little bit so we can step this left foot closer up to the hand. Now my foot is probably at wrist level of my left hand. If the weight is too far forward in the hands, shift the weight back so it's more planted into the legs so we can easily lift the arms up into the air. So there's our varied Warrior One. Bring hands down by your side to your hips perhaps. Here, just feel the alignment of the hips. Maybe everything is still square facing forward. If you'd like, feel free to step that right foot back a little further. We'll inhale to re-extend, arms up into the sky. Hold for a moment. Inhale, reach, and exhale, open to Warrior Two. If you need to reposition this right foot, if it feels like it's too far off to the right side of your mat, just step back a little bit. That way you get an alignment. If you look at your feet, maybe your left heel is in the same alignment as your right heel or your right instep. That might give you some good balance here. All right, side angle, we'll reach forward a little bit, bend this left arm. And if your arm can reach the thigh, go there, or just bring your hand to your thigh, either one. You just want to make sure this left knee doesn't jet past the ankle. Reach up into the sky with your right arm, and then maybe over your head to get that side body stretch. Extend, let's hold. Feel some varied postures today. All right, we're going to breathe in right here. And exhale, carefully turn towards the floor. Bend, feel the curvature in the spine. Catch the ground with your palms or fingertips. Rise up onto your tiptoes behind you. Press into the ground with the hands so you can slide or step the left foot back into plank. Hold for strength and length. Then gently set your knees onto the mat. If you want to bring in your blanket, that's great. So we're going to hold for a moment to do another set of cat and cow, maybe just 3 breaths on your own. Just continuing this nice undulation of the spine, movement through the pelvis, engagement of your core. All right, sit back if you can towards the heels, but eventually just sitting off onto the ground so you can swing the legs around to the front.
and scoot so you're sitting in the center of your mat. We're going to lie down on our back and move into our next back bend. It's one we always do. It's just our supported bridge pose. So you may want to bring in a big cushion or some stacked blocks or books. So we'll have those nearby. If you need padding for your head, use a blanket. So you're going to lie down, knees bent, feet flat on the ground. Even take the feet a little wider if you want to. They can be wider than your hips. For me, that feels good. I like having my feet wide because it keeps my back and hips spacious, especially when lifting up into bridge pose. First, we'll inhale and just feel the breath rise up to fill up your lungs. As you exhale, you might empty your belly and feel your low back press into the ground. Once you're right at that tail end of the exhale, press feet into the ground, lifting your hips. Grab your blocks, slide them underneath you so you can sit on them. And there you'll stay. Again, adjust the feet if you need to. You can take them wider or closer together, whatever feels right for you. Now with your upper body, you might just feel kind of flat on the ground. If you're able, we want to kind of get some opening through the chest. You can maybe lean to one side. I'm leaning to my right so I can get my left shoulder a little bit underneath me, and then lean into the left side to get the right shoulder underneath. Now imagine when we were seated at the beginning of our practice and you brought your arms behind you and you were squeezing your shoulder blades together, opening up your chest for that seated back bend. It's a very similar sensation here. So your shoulders are behind you, in this case, underneath you, to open up through the chest. Let's hold here. Just take some breaths. This can be very relaxing potentially, mainly because you're sitting on something. You don't have to engage too strongly to help lift yourself up. So this is bridge pose. Nice introductory but back bend, really. Certainly we could be moving into a pose called wheel pose, where we press our hands into the ground to really lift the whole upper body into this arched-like position. But of course, we won't be doing that today. Let's hold here a little bit longer. Now, if your arms are on the mat, flat on the mat, just see what your fingers can touch. Are you able to touch your heels? If they don't touch your heels, you don't have to move, you don't have to adjust. I'm just wondering what you might be touching. Maybe your fingers are a couple centimeters away from your feet, or maybe your feet are farther forward, or your arms aren't as long as mine. I have long arms and long fingers. So just being aware, just an awareness of where your arms and hands and fingers are in relationship to your feet. That's all. You don't have to make any adjustments. A couple more breaths. All right, let's release the shoulders out from underneath the body. We need to remove the blocks. So press into the ground with the feet, lift your hips. Let's slide the blocks out of the way, and then slowly come down to the ground. Before we get rounded up into a ball, which is kind of a natural tendency to do after a back bend, let's lengthen the body. Lengthen your legs out front, reach your arms back behind you. Reach. That's just a really natural relief or recentering, realigning of the spine after a back bend or even a forward fold, which we'll do right now. Hug both knees to chest. Just bring the knees in, catch them with your hands. You can even lift your head and upper back off the mat if you want, up towards the knees. Now we're in this rounded sensation, okay, like a forward fold, a counter pose to a back bend. We'll hold for another breath or two, and then we'll re-extend the spine. When you're ready, just lower the feet, re-extend the legs, and extend your arms back behind you. And you can lengthen there. Now we're going to rise to a seated posture, and here's a gradual way to do that, maybe even a safe way to do that. Bend your knees, hug your knees towards chest a little bit, and then just roll to one side. Once you're on your side, press your hands into the ground to help lift yourself up. and then just come to seated. Let's go ahead and extend the legs. Let's just do one more forward fold here. We'll extend the legs, flex your feet, and hands just resting on your knees perhaps. Let's inhale to sit up nice and tall. Exhale, pull belly in. Take a walk, maybe just one step down towards shins, hinge forward a little bit, right there. Do you feel that in your hamstrings? Again, it doesn't have to be a very deep stretch, very mild if necessary. Now you can take another step if you want to, even round your back. We're not going to be here too long. Just want to give you a little counter pose. Now we've got two kind of, I would call apex poses that we're going to practice today. Okay. One of them is camel pose, camel. Let's take 2 more breaths. And then you walk your hands back up towards your knees or thighs, and then re-extend your spine, sitting up nice and tall. Hold there. Okay, so let's move into our camel pose. We can do this together. So again, I'm just going to lean to my one side and just bring the legs back around. We're going to come up to hands and knees. Now, what we want here are some props, mainly a blanket. So let's bring in a blanket here because we're going to be kneeling on the blanket. So bring in your blanket. Let's get our knees up on the cushion right there, up on the blanket. And just look at your knees and be sure your knees are about hip distance apart. You can keep your toes flat on the ground or even tuck your toes. It doesn't really matter which just yet, okay? And go ahead and rise up so we're on our knees like this. Now just be aware if you're sitting or just really comfortable here, okay? Because what we want to do is send the pelvis forward. There's a little action of sending the hips forward. And you can feel an energy here in the upper thighs. And your hips are right over your knees, okay? Now once we're here, go ahead and tuck your toes behind you like that. If they're flat, just tuck your toes. Place your hands on your hips on either side, push down and sit up nice and tall, or just extend the spine nice and tall. Stay right there for a moment. I'm going to turn away from you for a moment so you can see this repositioning of the hands. So the hands are at your side, but you're going to bring your hands behind you. I like to make fists. Okay, so fists are right here just below the belt line, or you can use your thumbs or your palms. Okay, fists are nice. I think it's just a natural positioning for the hands. Now with the fist, you're going to do 2 movements. One is down, just like when you had your hands on your hips, you push down. Do the same thing from behind, push down. As you push down, extend the spine, feel tall in the torso. The second movement is pushing forward, just gently enough so that your hips stay stacked over your knees. Here's the movement. You're going to inhale, push fists down, lift torso up, exhale, push fists forward, lean back a little bit. Inhale, push down with your hands, extend spine. Exhale, push forward to keep hips aligned over knees, lean back. This is our camel pose. It's a variation of the full posture. The full posture would bring our hands down to our feet behind us. Okay, we're not going to go there today. We're going to keep this very mild position. Now the hand pressure on the low back, pushing down and slightly forward, keeps a nice spaciousness in the low back area. You want to feel like you're lifting the top of your sternum or across the collarbones, lifting up towards the ceiling. The exhale, we're just pulling belly button in gently towards spine to support the pose. So this is a modified camel position. All right, let's do a counter pose. We're going to rise up, getting out of that back bend, looking forward. You can flatten your feet, sit back like that. Bring hands in front, kind of come to hands and knees. We're moving to child's pose. So you might want to take your knees a little wider on your blanket, just so you have a little bit more space to actually sit back if you're able towards the heels. If you can't reach your heels, that's okay. Arms extend out front, lengthen. Now you might want to bring in a pillow to tuck in between you,
or underneath you, okay? Or a block for your head, something like this perhaps, and kind of create a nice extending quality with the body. We're reaching forward through the arms, your hips and tailbone, reaching back. It's a nice counter pose because there's a combination of a rounded back while extending the spine at the same time after doing our camel pose back bend position. So that's our first apex pose. We're going to move into another apex pose, but I'm going to leave it to you as an option, okay? Let's take 2 more breaths in child's pose. And then slowly start to rise up back onto your hands and knees. Go ahead and just take a seat. Just take a regular seat. You can even get a sip of water if you'd like. Let me just quickly demonstrate the next pose. I'll do one side. The pose is bow pose or half bow pose. It is a back bend. And the major part of the posture is that we're lying on our bellies, okay? Now, if you're in a position where you're not able to or you don't want to lie on your belly, instead of doing this posture, I would suggest doing camel pose again or go back to your bridge pose, okay? But let me quickly demonstrate one side of bow if you'd like to do this posture. So sit comfortably and watch. I want to use my blanket for a little extra cushioning underneath me. I'm just going to turn it this way. Just to give a little softening for my belly. So I'm basically just going to lie down just like this on my belly. Hands are just kind of underneath my shoulders like this, long legs, pointed toes. I'm going to extend my right arm forward. I like to prop up. I don't know if can you see my right hand? Yeah. My fingertips on the ground. I call these spider's legs. It just keeps me well supported. So I'm extending, reaching through my toes, reaching through this right hand. I'm going to bend my left leg right here. And then with the left hand, I'm going to reach back. And if I can reach my foot, I'm going to grab it. And then gently lift my chest, looking forward. I could even lift my leg, but I really don't have the power to lift the leg, and it's really not necessary to lift the leg. This is a back bend. You probably can see the natural arch in my back. So this is half bow pose. My foot is pointed. You can also flex the foot. It gives you a nice kind of a hook right there. Okay, so that's our posture, which we'll do on both sides. Again, if that looks like it might be a little bit too much for you today, use an alternative. Do camel pose again or your supported bridge pose, okay? If you're gonna do the half bow, go ahead and follow me. Go ahead and put something soft on your mat. We're gonna lie on our bellies, carefully on that pad. Hands can just come underneath the shoulders. We'll do the exact same thing which I just demonstrated. Extend your right arm forward. Your palm can stay on the ground. I like the fingertips. That just feels like it gives me a little bit more support. Okay, then extend both legs. Really reach through the right foot. And then bend your left knee. Bring your heel toward your backside. The toes can stay pointed or even flex the foot. Take your left hand and reach behind you. Let's say you can't reach your foot. That's okay. Just reach, even if you can't grab, okay? But if you can, grab hold of the ankle. Flex the foot perhaps or keep toes pointed. A gentle lift. It doesn't have to be very high. Just a little bit of a lift off the ground is perfect for this back bend. If you can lift a little higher, you're certainly welcome to, but certainly not necessary. This is a very complete back bend right here as we are. One more breath. Then we'll release the leg to the ground. Bring both hands underneath your shoulders again. And we're just going to lie down. Maybe just turn your head to one side. Bring your arms down by your side. Just so everything can relax. I'm trying to be careful so I'm not lying on my microphone. So that just allows your back just to relax after being in that back bend position. One more breath. All right, go ahead and bring your hands underneath your shoulders again. Press just to turn your head so you're facing forward or downward. Extend your left arm out front, palm on the ground or fingertips. Extend the legs because you're extending your spine here. Bend your right knee. Reach back with right hand. Touch the heel or grab hold of the ankle, whatever feels best. Pointed toes or flexed foot. Extending. Maybe this is enough. Or lift gently, a slight lift of chest away from the ground, maybe half an inch. Make sure you're still extending and reaching through this left arm and left leg. Because it's a back bend, we want to make sure we have enough spaciousness in that low back area, just like we did when we were practicing camel pose. One more breath. Release the foot. Bring it down. Bring both hands underneath shoulders. This time, push back to hands and knees. Let's return to child's pose. Maybe just crawl back up onto the blanket, take the knees wide, sit back. An alternative to this, if this is too much pressure for the knees or ankles, you can stay up high like this. So hips can be over knees, maybe hands out front, and just kind of sink like this. We call this puppy pose. You can bring your elbows to the ground. So you can do this as an alternative. So a nice relieving quality for your back after these actually are pretty dynamic back bends. 2 more breaths. Take your time to come back up to hands and knees. Let's do another series of cat and cow, but feel free to add any extra movements here. For example, rather than just the typical cat and cow, which you're welcome to do, maybe you want to add some more movement in your hips, maybe side to side or some circles, just to get into the outer hips a little bit, some nice circling, little stretch feeling, just a different sensation through the lower half of the body, and still incorporating perhaps that cat-cow flow. Keeping all that well lubricated, nice agility, keeping it nicely flexible. Go ahead and take 5 more breaths, whatever you're doing here. And when you feel complete, just pause in this tabletop position. And we'll get ready for our closing series. If you're on a blanket, let's crawl off that blanket. We'll set it to the side for a moment. You can always bring it back in because we're gonna be lying down, okay? So just find your way down to your mat so that you're able to lie down. Have your props nearby. You can always sit on a blanket or place it underneath your head. Once you're down, let's go ahead and hug the knees into chest, another forward fold. You can add more movement here if you'd like. Okay, especially after being in that bow pose. Now that was half bow pose, meaning we're doing one leg at a time. You can probably imagine what a full bow pose is. It's holding onto both feet at the same time. It's a very significant back bend. It could potentially put too much pressure on the low back if we're not careful. So that's why it might be nice to do something like this as a counter movement. Lie on your back, bring the knees in, and just give some gentle circles. Let's go back to bridge pose. If you've already done bridge for a second time, maybe you didn't do the bow poses and you did bridge, you can feel free to skip this. You can do a hip opener if you'd like.
or a twist or any other pose. Otherwise, let's go ahead and lift hips, slide blocks underneath you for your support, and then just sit. And just let the whole front body open again. And if you happen to have a firm set of blocks or books, they're kind of at the upper glute, right at the belt line perhaps, and it adds a little bit of pressure. And you can think of this as acupressure, as a way just to create maybe some more release in the connective tissue or in the muscle fibers there, especially in the low back and the upper glute area. And those are areas that can certainly obtain a lot of tension. So even just sitting on something like this with just the weight of your own body can also be quite healing. You can always bring your shoulders underneath you again, but feel free just to relax a little bit more comfortably here. We'll take a few more breaths. When you're ready, just press feet into the ground enough so you can lift the hips off the blocks, slide the blocks out from underneath you, and then back down we go. Hold for a moment. Now, I'm going to give you an alternative. Actually, let's do a twist first. Then I'm going to give you one more back bend, which could be your ending pose as an option. But let's do our twist first. Let's bring the knees in towards chest, send knees to the left side, right arm off to the right side. We're not going to be here too long because I'm going to show you this last posture. Because it can really be used as a nice restorative position. It is a back bend, but it can have, it adds a little bit of comfort, or can be comfortable. All right, let's bring the knees back up to center, pause there for a second, and then take them down to the other side. All right, now stay just like this. Don't unwind just yet. Now your knees are maybe pointing to the right side or just to one side of the room. Your torso might be facing the ceiling. So just turn your torso so it's facing the same direction as your knees so that you can use your hands to lift yourself back up to seated just momentarily, because I'm going to bring in that big pillow or cushion, okay? So I'm going to bring the cushion in, and because my cushion is pretty thick and firm, I'm going to bring a blanket behind me like this. Watch me first, and here is a nice restorative back bend that you're welcome to do if you want. So I've got all my props in place. I'm sitting right up against my cushion. I'm just draping my body over this big pillow. The blanket behind me, actually going to put one more fold in it, just keeps my neck a little bit more neutral and relaxed. And I can extend the legs or take them a little wider, but I prefer to actually come to cobbler's pose like this. It just, oh, for me, it just feels so spacious in this cobbler's pose. It releases my back, my hips. So this is our closing position. You can try this out, draping over your stacked pillows or even your blocks, even though the blocks are a little bit more firm. So try this. But if it feels like you can't hold this for the duration of our relaxation portion, go ahead and come to another restorative posture or even Shavasana. If you're still in your back bend, would like to transition, feel free to transition to another pose, perhaps just lying flat on your back into Shavasana. Or if you're still in a pose that feels right for you, just continue to pay attention to your breath. Wherever you are, return to the awareness of your breath. Do so by taking 5 slow, deep breaths. Feeling this new energy begin to flow through your body. Maybe just thinking a little bit about your practice. We did some variations of our movements today. We added some back bends. And again, back bends in yoga are heart openers. So maybe even think about what you're opening your heart to. Maybe it's something that you're needing inside. Something to fill your heart. Or maybe you're experiencing some fullness in your heart and you want to give, share. After your 5th breath, move very slowly. You might roll to one side initially so that you can eventually rise up to a seated position. Take your time. Move in slow motion. And once you've made your way to seated, we're going to hold here for a few more breaths. Go back to your breathing practice, back to meditation, just as we did at the beginning of our class. Maybe keeping your eyes closed, feeling the fullness of your breath. As you breathe in, just feel the breath rising to fill up your lungs, but also filling up your heart space. And your arms might just be relaxing down by your side, with your hands relaxed on your knees or in your lap. Take 5 more breaths here in stillness. One more movement to complete our class. Together, let's inhale, extend your arms out and up into the air. Let your hands connect here overhead. As you exhale, bring your palms together and down to your heart space. Once again, breathe into your heart space. This heart opening practice. And as we come to the close of this portion of our journey together, we bow saying, Namaste.